Or worse, did they? She continued to search the box. Deeper inside, she found an envelope addressed to someone she hadn't heard of in years, to Mr. Chuka Okoro, legal guardian, Lago State. She blinked. Her hands trembled. Uncle Chuka, her real uncle, her mother's only brother, the man her stepmother claimed had abandoned her. A memory returned, blurry but sharp with emotion. A man lifting her in the air, laughing. Her mother watching, smiling, arms crossed, her real family. So he was still alive. He was listed. And if he was getting these documents, then maybe he had never stopped looking. Or maybe he had. The thoughts tangled in her chest like vines. That night, she didn't sleep. She sat in the corner of the kitchen, holding the documents, whispering promises to herself. I'm not a ghost. I'm not forgotten. I have a name, a life. I'm going to find him. But as fate often does, it stepped ahead of her. The following afternoon, Oga Gboyega left the compound to visit a nearby village. He left strict orders for Amara not to open the door or speak to anyone. The silence didn't last long. Knock, knock. It was gentle at first, then louder. Amara froze. She tiptoed toward the window, heart pounding. Outside stood a man in a smart brown suit, his face lined with age and exhaustion. Beside him, a younger man held a photograph. They were asking the gatekeeper something. The older man's voice echoed faintly. I'm looking for a girl. Amara Okoro. She would be around 15 now. Her heart stopped. They knew her name. She stared, unable to breathe. Should she run? Open the door? Hide? The decision was made for her. The low, growling rumble of a motorcycle shattered the moment. Oga Gboyega was back. The compound gate clanked open. Tires skidded to a halt. Amara had only seconds. Her eyes darted to the back door. Her feet moved. She ran. Out of the kitchen. Through the corridor. Past the cracked windows and crooked shelves. Out into the fading afternoon sun. Behind her came the thunder of boots. Get back here, Gboyega roared. Amara screamed. Her lungs burned. Her legs pushed harder than they ever had. Help me, she cried, her voice slicing through the stale air. The men at the gate turned. The older man gasped. Amara, he called out. But Gboyega was faster, his legs longer. He lunged. A blur moved. Arms grabbed her, strong, sure, trembling with recognition. She looked up. Her mouth quivered. Uncle Chuka, she whispered. His eyes filled with tears. Oh my God, my child, it's you. Before another word could be spoken, chaos erupted. Gboyega drew a rusted knife from his waistband. She's mine, he spat. I raised her, fed her. You can't take her away. You were paid to hide her, the younger man barked, flashing a badge. Oga Gboyega, you are under arrest. Officer Kunle, the man with the photo. But Gboyega wasn't surrendering. The knife flashed in the air. Back off, he screamed. Uncle Chuka stepped in front of Amara, his arm outstretched like a shield. Officer Kunle lunged from the side, tackling Gboyega to the dusty red ground. The knife skidded across the dirt. Amara, come here, Uncle Chuka shouted. She ran, straight into his arms. They held each other like lifelines. Her body shook. His chest heaved. I thought no one remembered me, she whispered. He pulled her closer. We never stopped looking. I swear to you, she told us you ran away, that you were gone. Why did it take so long? She asked, her voice barely audible. He didn't answer. Not yet. Behind them, Officer Kunle clamped cuffs onto Gboyega, who cursed and spat like a cornered animal. You think this ends me? That girl is cursed. Her mother died for a reason. But no one listened anymore. Not the neighbors gathering at the compound walls, not the officers arriving in sirened trucks, alerted by Officer Kunle's earlier call. They saw Amara now, not as a fugitive or runaway, but as what she truly was, a prisoner, and now finally free. The ride back to Ibadan was quiet but heavy with meaning. Amara sat in the back of the police van, wrapped in Uncle Chuka's worn jacket, the scent of old cologne and dust strangely comforting. Officer Kunle sat beside her, occasionally glancing her way as if to reassure her that she was safe now. But the safety didn't feel real yet. For years, her muscles had memorized how to shrink, how to flinch. Now they had to learn stillness again. Her eyes scanned the windows like a soldier expecting ambush. "You're going home?" Kunle said softly. She looked up, voice barely a whisper. "Where's home?" Uncle Chuka turned in the front seat, his eyes kind but unreadable. "Lagos," he said. "You have a room there, a family, a place where no one will ever lock the door on you again." Lagos. The name sounded like a foreign land, like a dream on the other side of a radio broadcast. Amara had only ever heard of it. Tall buildings, electricity that stayed on, food that didn't come from leftovers. It didn't seem real. But then, nothing in her life did. When they arrived at the compound in Lagos, Amara couldn't believe her eyes. A white bungalow stood beneath a mango tree, surrounded by flower beds in full bloom. Laughter drifted from behind the walls, children's laughter. The front gate opened before they even knocked. A woman ran out, tears streaking down her cheeks. Her wrapper trailed behind her like a kite. "Amara!" she cried. Auntie Ngozi, her mother's closest cousin. She swept Amara into a hug so fierce it stole her breath. "You look just like a daze," she whispered through sobs. "Oh my God. We didn't know." Behind her, two teenage girls peeked from the doorway, eyes wide. They stepped out slowly, unsure of what to say. "Zena," the taller one said gently, "and I'm Lami. We're your cousins." Amara didn't know how to respond, so she simply stared. That night, they gave her a bath with warm water and sweet-smelling soap. They dressed her in clean pajamas, soft and new, and laid her on a real bed with a mattress, pillows, and a blanket that smelled of lavender. The room was painted soft blue. There were posters on the wall, a bookshelf, a window, freedom. But Amara couldn't sleep. Her body wasn't used to softness. Her ears strained for footsteps, for keys rattling at the door. When the floor creaked, she flinched. Healing, she realized, wasn't instant. It would take time, and time came. Days passed. Auntie Ngozi filled the house with warmth. Zena and Lami treated her like a sister, braiding her hair, sharing their music, letting her scroll through social media, and teaching her how to take selfies. At first, Amara barely spoke, but slowly she began to ask questions. She started with her mother. Uncle Chuka sat her down one evening in the living room. A brown folder rested on the table between them. "This," he said, "is your mother's will." Amara blinked. "She left everything to you," he continued. "A day's fabrics, the house in Abeokuta, her shares. But the inheritance is locked until you turn 18. Amara looked up. "But how?" "I was gone." He nodded. "Exactly. You disappeared, and the law doesn't favor uncertainty. We couldn't access your trust. No one could. Not even to look for you properly. We didn't have enough proof that you were alive, or that Said, Mama Remy, lied. Mama Remy sold me," Amara said flatly. He flinched. "We know that now. She's under investigation. But there's more." He opened the file and passed her a single paper. It was a bank transaction. A transfer from Adiz Fabrics, her mother's company, to Olga Giboyega's personal account. "But why would the company pay him?" she asked, confused. He shook his head. "Because someone kept the payments going. Someone convinced the estate lawyers that he was your guardian. On paper, he was legitimate." Her breath caught. "That means—" "Yes, he hid you under legal protection. Forged, but protected." "But how did no one check?" He looked away. "Because we all believed what Mama Remy told us. that you had run away. The betrayal carved itself deeper into Amara's chest. Her own blood believed she had run, until now. That night, Amara sat in bed, holding the folder, flipping through her mother's signature, her smiling photograph, and pages of her company's legacy. A day's fabrics, her name, her inheritance, her birthright. But she didn't feel like an heiress. She felt like an echo still chasing its own voice. In the days that followed, Amara started attending therapy. At first, she said nothing, but over time she began to talk, about the nights on the kitchen floor, about the pain in her hands, the way her feet had cracked, how she had learned to cry without sound. Her therapist said something she never forgot. You were never broken. You were trained to survive. And now, you're learning to live. She began journaling. Every night she scribbled memories on paper, fragments, thoughts, fears, dreams. Her handwriting improved. Her mind sharpened. One night she wrote a story. She titled it, The Girl Behind the Gate. It wasn't about revenge. It was about rediscovery. She showed it to Uncle Chuka. He read it silently. Then he looked at her. You have a gift, he said. It was the first time in years she truly smiled. But just when peace started to settle into her bones, a new envelope arrived. This time, it came from prison. The sender, Olga Guboyega, the man who held her captive. Inside was a single handwritten letter. Amara hesitated before reading it. But something in her gut, a twitch of the same instinct that once kept her alive, told her to open it. It read, You think you've won? You haven't. I was just a tool. Someone else paid me to hide you. Ask your uncle why it took him so long to find you. Ask him about the first payment. Ask who really benefits if you never claim your name. Her hands dropped the paper. Her heart thudded against her ribs. Had he lied? Was this just another ploy? Or was there something buried deeper still, under layers of protection and good intentions? That night, she walked into the kitchen and found Uncle Chuka going through business papers. I got a letter, she said. He looked up. From who? Guboyega, she replied. He said, someone else paid him, that you knew. Silence fell like rain in a dry room. He set the files down. Yes and no, he whispered. I don't understand, she said. He rubbed his face with both hands. After your mother died, everything exploded. Media, banks, lawyers, and then, Mama Remy said you ran away. I didn't believe her, but the police found no clues. I was lost. You gave up? She asked. His voice broke. I did, for a time. I hated myself. When the checks kept coming, I put them in a separate account. I never spent a kobo. I swear. But I thought, maybe you were gone. But I wasn't, she said quietly. He nodded. And that will haunt me forever. Do you hate me? He asked. Amara stared at him. No, she said. But I don't trust easily anymore. He nodded. Fair. She stood. I'm going to get my name back, she said. And I'll do it my way. By the time the Harmattan winds rolled into Lagos that December, Amara was no longer the girl behind the gate. She walked taller now, straight. Her voice, once buried in whispers, had found volume, even if it trembled sometimes. And when the media caught wind of her story, the lost child of Adaeze Okoro, returned from nowhere, the public couldn't look away. The story trended for days. But Amara didn't want to be a media darling. She wanted the truth, the entire truth. It was during one of her quiet nights combing through her mother's old journals that she found it. A photo. Faded with age, curled at the edges. Two women standing shoulder to shoulder, arms linked, laughing. One was her mother. The other was Mama Remy, the woman who sold her. But in this photo, Mama Remy wasn't a stranger. She wasn't a stepmother. She was a friend. Amara's fingers trembled as she flipped the photograph. A date was scrawled in blue ink. March 1998. a full year before Amara was born. She dove back into the journals, flipping through entries like a woman possessed. And then she found it, an entry scribbled in her mother's elegant cursive. March 21st. Remy says she's happy for me. But sometimes when I talk about Tunde or the factory, her smile doesn't reach her eyes. Jealousy, maybe. I hope I'm wrong. She's been my closest friend since university. Maybe she just needs time to adjust. I'll talk to her again, after the baby comes. Amara sat back, her heart pounding. It was true. Mama Remy hadn't just entered their lives after her father's death. She had always been there, close, trusted, inside, which meant everything. The betrayal, the selling, the lies, ran deeper than she ever imagined. That night she called a family meeting. Uncle Chuka, Auntie Ngozi, Zina, Lami. They gathered around the dining table, the air heavy with anticipation. Amara placed the photograph and the journal entry on the table. She wasn't just my stepmother, she said softly. She was my mother's best friend. Gasps. She was there, before I was born. She knew everything, our business, our home, our family. She envied your mom, Auntie Ngozi said, her voice tight. That much is clear. Amara nodded. And when my mother died, Remy didn't just take over. She made sure I disappeared, so I wouldn't inherit what my mother left for me. Uncle Chuka's fists clenched. She killed her, he said through gritted teeth. Amara shook her head. There's no evidence of that, but I think she used the chaos after the accident to take control. I was a child. I was just in the way. A long silence followed. Then Uncle Chuka stood. We need to take this to the police. There might be others who knew, others who stayed silent. What about Gaboyega? Zina asked. Do you think he was working for her the whole time? Amara paused. She hated the man, but she was starting to understand. He's cruel, she said, but he wasn't the mastermind. He was paid, just like I was betrayed. 2 weeks later, a hearing was scheduled in Ibadan High Court. Amara was there, this time by choice. Mama Remy was brought in dressed in a faded wrapper and headscarf, looking nothing like the proud woman who used to rule the compound. Her skin looked ashen. Her eyes were wild. When she saw Amara sitting beside her lawyer, confident, poised, chin high, she froze. The court proceedings moved quickly. The evidence was overwhelming. Forged guardianship documents, hidden financial transfers, Gaboyega's signed confession, stating that he was paid to keep Amara hidden until she came of age. The judge, an older woman with gray locks tucked under a ceremonial cap, listened in growing anger. When it was over, she stood. Remilekun Adebayo, she pronounced, you are hereby sentenced to 22 years in prison for child trafficking, conspiracy to defraud, and obstruction of justice. Mama Remy didn't cry, didn't plead. She only stared at Amara as the guards cuffed her hands. Your mother took everything from me, she muttered, her voice low but bitter. I just took it back. Amara didn't flinch. You didn't take anything, she said. You only delayed what was already mine. With that, she turned her back on the woman who had stolen her childhood. That same month, Amara returned to Lagos. She began laying bricks for something bigger than herself, something she had dreamed of during those dark, endless nights on the kitchen floor. She called it the Gatekeepers Initiative, a youth foundation dedicated to helping trafficked or abused children rebuild their lives, find shelter, go to school, and feel safe again. She used part of her inheritance to build shelters across the country. She hired lawyers to represent children with no voice. She gave speeches, spoke on radio shows, partnered with NGOs. She even visited schools in rural towns, sharing her story, not as a victim, but as a survivor. And then came the biggest step. She reopened her mother's company. A Day's Fabrics returned to life with new branding, new leadership, and a bold new mission, empowering orphaned and abused girls. She hired from shelters, trained girls in fashion and sewing, gave them dignity, gave them a future. On the grand opening day, journalists from all over Nigeria came to cover the event. Cameras flashed, reporters crowded. The governor's wife even attended. But it was Amara's short speech that silenced the room. "They tried to bury me," she said, her voice clear and strong. "But I was a seed, and now I'm blooming into something they never saw coming." Thunderous applause followed. But that night, under the mango tree in their compound, when the guests were gone and the lights dimmed, Officer Kunle came to visit. He carried an envelope. "I thought you'd want this," he said, handing it to her. Inside were 2 documents. 1. Her official adoption cancellation form. 2. The closure file on her case. "It's done," he said. "Your name, your life. It's all yours now." Amara looked up, her smile soft and slow. "Thank you," she whispered, "for everything." He shook his head. "You saved yourself," he said. "I just opened the gate." And in that quiet moment, Amara knew the truth. She was no longer the girl behind the gate. She was the woman who walked through it, and built a kingdom beyond it. Months passed. The rainy season swept through Lagos like a baptism, washing the city in silver and steam. Amara's life, too, seemed to flow cleaner now. She moved through each day with purpose, visiting shelters, reviewing company budgets, giving interviews that stirred the hearts of a nation. But healing was not a straight path, and closure was never complete without the truth. One evening, as lightning crackled in the distant sky, Amara sat cross-legged on her bedroom floor, flipping through the last of her mother's journals. She had read most of them already: letters to the unborn her, reflections on business, secrets shared in cursive ink. Then, between 2 yellowing pages, something slipped out. A photograph. Old. Faded. It showed her mother, Adaeze Okoro, smiling gently beside a woman who held a teacup with a casual familiarity. Mama Remy, the woman who sold her. Amara stared at it. But it wasn't the photo that unsettled her. It was the warmth between them, the intimacy, the comfort. They weren't strangers. They were close, possibly best friends. She turned the photo over. March 1st, 1998, the year before she was born. Her stomach sank. Amara turned back to the journal. Her fingers brushed over an entry dated 2 weeks after the photograph. The handwriting was hurried, uneven. "Remy says she's happy for me, but when I talk about Tunde, or the company, there's something strange in her eyes. I think it's jealousy, maybe even resentment. I don't want to believe it. We've been friends since university. Maybe I'm overthinking it. I'll talk to her again after the baby comes." Amara closed the journal. Her heart beat hard against her ribs. It was no accident. Mama Remy had been there from the beginning, inside the house, inside her mother's dreams, inside their family. And when the tragedy struck, she didn't just grieve. She took. She took the child. She took the business. She took everything. Later that evening, Amara called a family meeting again. In the living room, under the gentle hum of the ceiling fan, she laid the photo and the journal entry on the coffee table. Uncle Chuka, Auntie Ngozi, Zina, and Lami leaned forward, faces drawn. "She wasn't an outsider," Amara began, voice calm. "She was my mother's closest friend. Before she was my stepmother, she was family." Uncle Chuka looked at the photo. His jaw tightened. "She planned this," he muttered. Auntie Ngozi nodded slowly. She knew everything. About the business, the estate, the will. She waited for the right moment. "When my mother died," Amara continued, "Remy didn't just step in. She manipulated everyone, lied to the estate lawyers, said I ran away, hid me with a stranger and made sure I never claimed my name." Zina shivered. "She killed your mother," she whispered. Amara shook her head. "No proof of that. But she used the chaos after the crash. She seized the moment, and she kept me quiet, hidden. For years, a silence fell across the room. Then Uncle Chuka stood. We need to speak to the police again. If she was part of my sister's life from the start, others must have known, and someone else must have helped her. We can't stop now. But that wasn't all. Amara still had one lingering ember in her chest, a small, quiet burn of doubt. Gboyega's prison letter still whispered at the edges of her mind. Ask your uncle about the first payment. Ask who really benefits if you never claim your name. She didn't want to believe it, but she had to ask. That night, she sat with Uncle Chuka in the kitchen. The air was thick. The only sound was the slow drip of the tap. I need to ask you something, she said. He looked up. She placed the letter from Gboyega on the table. He said someone else paid him, that you knew, that you waited too long. His face changed. Not shock, not anger, pain. He set his cup down slowly. Yes, he whispered. Amara's breath caught. Why? Because I didn't know how to face the truth, he said. When your mother died, I was lost. The company was frozen. Reporters camped outside our house. Lawyers argued over every detail. And then, Remy told me you ran away. I didn't believe her, he continued. Not at first. I pushed the police. I filed reports. But every trail ended in smoke. After a year, I was exhausted, broken. Then, out of nowhere, the estate trust fund started releasing payments to someone who claimed to be your guardian. You didn't question it? Amara asked, her voice rising. I did, but they showed documents, legal ones. A court-stamped letter declaring Gboyega as your caretaker. I thought, maybe I was wrong. Maybe you had been found. You took the money. I kept it, he said, in a separate account. I never touched a kobo, I swear. But I gave up. For a while, I gave up. Amara closed her eyes. She wanted to scream. But more than that, she wanted to cry. I wasn't dead, she whispered. I know, he said, and I'll carry that guilt with me for the rest of my life. Do you hate me for it? Amara looked at him. No, she said, but I don't forgive easily, and I don't trust blindly. He nodded. That's fair. She stood. I'm not doing this for revenge, she said. I'm doing it because I owe my mother. I owe myself. I won't let her story end in silence. And neither would the world. The next month, Amara gave a televised interview, one watched by millions across Nigeria. She told her story, not as a headline, but as a reckoning. I was trafficked. I was hidden. I was forgotten. But I am here now, and I am not the only one. That night, the internet erupted. Newspapers printed full-page spreads. Women across the country sent letters of support. Survivors reached out, and Addie's Fabrics, reborn under her leadership, became a symbol, not just of heritage, but of healing and power. The day of the final